Hi, this is your Li-Toroptsov, and you're listening to Image is Psyche, a podcast dedicated to fantasy lives. On today's program, I'll be talking about how to establish an inner dialogue. So, what am I talking about? What is this inner dialogue that I'm talking about? Well, it's very hard to describe it in precise terms, but in general, I would say it's an ongoing process of communication with your deeper self. Well, since I don't have a definition, a precise one to offer to you, um, I was thinking that maybe a fairy tale will come to the rescue. So I'm going to read you a beginning paragraph of this fairy tale that I love. It's called Vasilisa the Beautiful. And in this opening paragraph, there is an indication that can give you an idea of what is it that I'm talking about and what do I mean by deep inner dialogue. In a certain kingdom, there lived a merchant. Although he had been married for 12 years, he had only one daughter, called Vasilisa the Beautiful. When the girl was 8 years old, her mother died. On her deathbed, the merchant's wife called her daughter, took a doll from under her cover, gave it to the girl, and said, "Listen, Vasilisushka. Remember and heed my last words. I am dying, and together with my maternal blessing, I leave you this doll. Always keep it with you, and do not show it to anyone. If you get into trouble, give the doll food and ask its advice. When it has eaten, it will tell you what to do in your trouble." Then the mother kissed her child and died. It's a very dramatic opening for this beautiful fairy tale. And I would like to draw your attention to this doll that the dying mother has transmitted, has given to her daughter, along with her maternal blessing. So this is something that Vasilisa inherited from her dying mother. So likewise, this inner dialogue is something that we might inherit. This is something that is that comes from the depths of our ancestry. It connects us to that part. It's a natural ability to connect to deeper parts of ourselves. And the need for this inner dialogue manifests itself exactly in those moments when we are lost, we don't know what's happening with our lives, we're searching for meaning, and we don't find it. So if this doll that Vasilisa received is this connection to our deeper wisdom, then we have a manual of how it is working. Keep it secret. Don't show it to anybody. Like somebody would keep their journal. Feed it. Feed it means that, well, fill it with words or fill it with content. And then sit back waiting for advice. Because that's what the mother said to Vasilisa. Yes, you feed it, and in all your troubles, she will come through with advice. I'm a professional coach, and very often I have this demand and reflection that comes from my clients who are saying, I feel so alone. I don't have anybody to talk to. And my first and initial reaction is, what is the state of your inner dialogue? And very often, well, there's none. Of course, it doesn't mean that the client doesn't have a certain level of self-reflection and thinking. On the contrary, very often you're full of thinking, but that thinking remains within your head and has no this exteriorization like we see in this fairy tale when it's actually a doll. So it becomes an external object outside of your head with which you maintain this conversation, this dialogue. So it's very important to establish or to start putting things in place that can, generate the beginnings of this inner dialogue. Why? Well, because first thing, you'll never feel alone when this dialogue is going on. You'll never feel alone, truly, because you'll have someone to talk to and someone who listens and somebody who gives advice, which is very unusual. And this advice is something that is extremely precious because very often when we are stuck, when we don't know, we talk to friends, we might hire a coach or go see a therapist. We're looking for help, and this is wonderful. This is a great reflex, and it's a wonderful instinct. But in the end of it all, what counts is to be able to connect to your own resources, to receive advice within yourself, because nobody, no therapist, no coach, no friend can know you better than yourself. So you are an expert of your life. It just turns out that this wisdom, this knowledge is not on the ground. It's not readily available. You have to know how to access this. And by putting in place, we'll talk about how you can access this wisdom. So by putting in place those things, you have a better chance of creating company for yourself. Let's go back for a second to Vasilisa. What happens in her life? And let's see how she can teach us how to use this doll, which in fact has many names, including that of ancestral wisdom and intuition. After his wife's death, the merchant mourned as it is proper, and then began to think of marrying again. He was a handsome man and had no difficulty in finding a bride. But he liked best a certain widow, because she was elderly and had 2 daughters of her own, of almost the same age as Vasilisa. He thought that she was an experienced housewife and mother. So he married her, but was deceived, for she did not turn out to be a good mother for his Vasilisa. Well, here we see that this is a common pattern, common leitmotif that we find in many other fairy tales. Vasilisa realizes that her life is not going to be easy with a stepmother. So, in a way, she's crossing a very difficult moment. And remember, I told you, if you have this inner dialogue in place, it could be something that will help you to go through this turbulence that life throws your way. And even though Vasilisa is about to face the most challenging moments of her existence, she's equipped. She's equipped with this doll that her mother gave her. So what concrete forms this deep inner dialogue can take? The first thing I would recommend is journaling. This is such a non-magical solution in a way, but it works. Journaling is known, regular journaling is known to decrease the anxiety. Journaling is a piece of paper, in its most primitive and most basic form. But it can take many different forms. Journaling is taking that thought, giving it shape, taking the time, applying some motor function of your body so it exists outside of your body and outside of your mind. You write down what you feel, you write down what you think, and what's really important with journaling, it's an act of action. Yes, it's not a passive uh, mulling over and ruminating about your situation. It's really acting. So it's a very active role. Journaling can give you this feeling of agency that you are doing something to change your current situation, which is unsatisfactory. You cannot do much, but in fact, you can write, you can express it, you can journal. And that is an active expression, and that is already looking for a solution. So, how does one journal? Is there a right way? No. You do what you want, basically. I think, the point is establish a relationship with this outside instance, but there's a couple of points that I would like to mention. Sometimes there's a tendency just to write down what happened. In itself, it's an interesting strategy, and if you need more of an insight into sort of reliving the experience of what happened, it can be useful. But it shouldn't be only this, just recounting what happened, sort of the sequence of events. What's really helpful is a reflection, a bit of analysis, and that might include how you felt, what you think, how you can explain certain events, why it happened, why, according to you, they happened. So my tip would be to treat this journaling not as a monologue, but as a dialogue. So consider that somebody is there talking to you, or you had to explain certain things to someone. It's not just a place where you just pour down all what you think. It's also where you ask questions. And some of those questions can be really tough. For example, you have lived through a very unpleasant situation with someone. Of course, you described it, all that, but then you ask yourself, is there something in what happened that escapes my knowledge? That's a very powerful question, because suddenly you're no longer reacting as one of the participants of this difficult situation. You're placing yourself outside. You're looking for an insight that concerns the whole thing, not only your side of the story. Let's go back to Vasilisa. So as you can imagine, in this part of the story, she lives a Cinderella destiny in a way, when she has to work hard, and the amount of work that she's given is enormous. So there's no way she can accomplish all the tasks that she's assigned to. But Vasilisa has a doll, that precious helper who helped her a lot. And without its aid, the girl could never have managed all the work. Let me go back to the book. So in return, Vasilisa sometimes did not eat, but kept the choicest morsels for her doll. And at night, when everyone was asleep, she would lock herself in the little room in which she lived and would give the doll a treat, saying, "Now, little doll, eat and listen to my troubles. I live in my father's house, but I am deprived of all joy. A wicked stepmother is driving me from the white world. Tell me how I should live and what I should do." The doll would eat, then would give her advice and comfort her in her trouble. So as you can see, the doll is a great help to this child in distress. And as you can see, Vasilisa is doing it regularly. So this is a very important point. You don't have to do it every day, obviously. Sometimes, it's hard. You don't have time. But you have to do it regularly. So there should be maybe a moment during the day or in the evening when you really set aside a certain amount of time when you really sit down and do this. At some point, when this habit is really becoming a part of your life, you don't need to think about it anymore because it will come naturally. Until then, I would really recommend you set aside a certain amount of time for you to journal. And if you're not a writer, you can change writing your journal by, I don't know, by spontaneously drawing, taking just a pencil and doing scribbling or doing collages. It's what's important here is a moment of this focus and concentrated activity without any particular aim, but that is directed towards yourself. You're doing it for no reason but for yourself. You are the subject of this. Another variation of this can be a dream journal. I talked about dream work and how it is a wonderful tool for self-care in my previous podcast episode. So feel free to check it out. But yeah, it could be writing down your dreams, not necessarily going to analyze them, but really collecting them and creating a very particular space in your journal for your dreams. Because dreams are, messengers from the depth of your own psyche. So even sometimes you cannot understand them by yourself. You might need the help of somebody who does. It doesn't matter, collecting them, like collecting flowers, is a very important action. Another form of journaling can be what I call a body scan. Not to draw a body each time I do a body scan in my journal. What I did, I created this ready-made cut out of a body shape, and each time I have to draw it, I just use a pencil and do it, do the contour, and it gives me a very schematic depiction of a body. It doesn't have to be detailed. What's important that it's a shape that corresponds to your body shape and to your body parts. And then I close my eyes and I start mentally scanning my body for any unpleasant or pleasant or any kind of body sensation that I feel. I start with the top of my head and go down to my toes. For instance, if I have a headache, I take the red pencil and I draw these spots where I feel this body tension or headache on my drawing, on my body outline. And this way I go all the way through the body, and when I finish, I see those red spots in the outline where something is not going right in my body. So it's a visual representation of my body sensations. What's interesting with body scans is when you look over time, when you have some history of doing this, you just realize that, maybe you're prone to certain kinds of body sensations or tensions in certain parts of your body. So you realize that, maybe there are things that are not going right and that they need more relaxation or maybe even treatment. So it's a way to connect not only to your thoughts, but also to your body, the vehicle that actually carries you. Let's go back to Vasilisa. In this part of the story, she's in trouble. The stepmother and her girls ran out of light. There's not a single light in the house. So they need light. And the only way they can get it is to go into the forest to the sorceress, a terrible witch named Baba Yaga. This is how it goes. Go to Baba Yaga. And they pushed Vasilisa out of the room. She went into her own little room, put the supper she had prepared before her doll, and said, "Now, dolly, eat, and aid me in my need. They are sending me to Baba Yaga for a light, and she will eat me up." The doll ate the supper, and its eyes gleamed like two candles. "Fear not, Vasilisushka," it said. "Go where you're sent. Only keep me with you all the time. With me in your pocket, you will suffer no harm from Baba Yaga." Vasilisa made ready, put her doll in her pocket, and having made the sign of the cross, went into the deep forest. Baba Yaga is obviously a terrible witch, and each encounter with this kind of character ends badly, unless, of course, you don't know how to deal with her. And if you do, then she gives you what you came for. And Vasilisa came for the light, and with the light will she live. So you have to read this beautiful fairy tale yourself to see all the action, all this amazing action that teaches us a lot. And in fact, where I'm going with this is that Vasilisa wasn't alone. She had a companion with whom she went through this whole initiation ordeal. Of course, Baba Yaga, being the witch, she has given her many tasks to accomplish, but the faithful doll helped her to do all of those things. And so in the end, Baba Yaga said, "Get out of here." She dragged Vasilisa out of the room and pushed her outside the gate, took a skull with burning eyes from the fence, stuck it on a stick, and gave it to the girl, saying, "Here's your light for your stepsisters. Take it. That is what they sent you for." Vasilisa ran homeward by the light of the skull, which went out only at daybreak, and by nightfall of the following day she reached the house. As she approached the gate, she was about to throw the skull away, thinking that surely they no longer need a light in the house. But suddenly a dull voice came from the skull, saying, "Do not throw me away. Take me to your stepmother." She looked at the stepmother's house and, seeing that there was no light in the windows, decided to enter with her skull. For the first time, she was received kindly. Her stepmother and stepsisters told her that since she had left, they had no fire in the house. They were unable to strike a flame themselves, and whatever light was brought by the neighbors went out the moment it was brought into the house. "Perhaps your fire will last," said the stepmother. The skull was brought into the room, and its eyes kept staring at the stepmother and her daughters and burned them down. They tried to hide, but wherever they went, the eyes followed them. By morning, they were all burned to ashes. Only Vasilisa remained untouched by fire. I just love this story. I mean, it's not where it ends, so I leave it up to you to look it up if you're interested. What strikes me most is that Vasilisa was never really alone. She had this dialogue, in deepest internal dialogue, that she really nurtured with herself. Yes, it came as a gift from and a blessing from the mother, but it was Vasilisa herself who, by the force of perseverance, kept this dialogue going. And I think this is a beautiful illustration of what you can do for yourself when you commit to discussing, sharing your feelings, your thoughts, your body sensations with your journal. And it creates a feedback that you might need, the insight that you might need to go on through the life's challenges. Thank you for listening. Until next time, bye-bye.